What's up, everyone? Thank you for clicking on my YouTube channel, the CeeLo's Film Club. Today, we're going to be talking about the season finale for Stranger Things. Yes, guys, all good things coming to an end. And did it leave with the banger? We'll talk about it. I'll give you guys my overall thoughts and, feelings on how the season ended. I'm not going to dive too deep into the previous episodes or completely Easter eggs that everyone's talking about. Everyone is, though, talking about right now. There's speculations and theories all over social media, all over Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere you can think of. I even had my girlfriend's mom text her, do you think they're going to drop a new episode? So everyone's thinking there's going to be a secret episode called the Conformity Gate. I'll dive deep into it once we start talking about the season finale. But before we get started, guys, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Turn on your notifications so you guys do not miss a beat on any of the movie news. All right, guys, let's talk about Stranger Things, the finale. I do think overall this Stranger Things finale, they would have had to do an overall wrapping kind of arcs of certain people. Things they left the little things vague, I think, for our minds to wander, and I think that was the whole point of the ending. We do have a lot of things going on, though. We do have, them trying to defeat the Mind Flayer, trying to get those kids out of Vecna's mind into as well. There's just a lot of components going on. I think there's a lot of great things in the season, but there's a lot of things that kind of left me with my head scratch. I'll give you guys overall what kind of happens in the season. They were able to take out all these kids from the cave. All these kids that was caved. And this cave is where Vecna memory is, where he doesn't like going to, because that's pretty much where he lost his innocence per se. But even then, I do think that whole thing is kind of unexplained and weird, where he doesn't like going to this cave because that's when he turned into Vecna. Okay, I totally get that. But at the end of the day, that guy that he took that briefcase from, the guy that probably worked in this kind of Area 51 looking cave thing where, it's unauthorized to go in there without authorization. And, Vecna, Henry wandered his way there, and this guy had this case and he was on the floor. And he didn't notice Henry, and he shot him. So Henry grabbed shot him, tried to shoot him, and he grabbed the rock and beat the living hell out of him. When that happened, guys, I was like, well, Henry's always kind of been bad. It's not like he just hit him once. He beat the crap out of him. I'm telling you, he wailed on him nonstop until the guy was completely dead. He opened the case, and the guy, before he died, pretty much told him, I think something along those lines, like, don't let it control you or don't let it consume you, something like that. When he opened the case, that's when we know that was the Mind Flayer pretty much took Henry's innocence there. He doesn't like going there. I really don't know why. I don't know if it's because him beating the guy up or that just when he turned into Vecna might be traumatizing for him. But this guy goes out of his way to kill kids. You know what I mean? Like, that's what he does right now. I know he's probably controlled by the Mind Flayer, but there has been times where, or they actually explain in the show, where there's a part where, Will can see Vecna too, as well as he can see the other Demogorgons, where he tells him, hey, I know what they did to you. I know what, the Mind Flayer did to you. You can help us. And then they have this whole talk, and all of a sudden Vecna's saying, no, this is what I meant to do. It might be the Mind Flayer controlling him or not, but at the same time, that seemed like a waste of talk. Kind of fill in dialogue to me to fill in the episode. And we just know that Henry is bad. That's how I take it. It doesn't really matter why or whatnot, but I do think that Henry's pretty bad. And then, speaking of the caves, let's talk about how all the kids escaped the cave. They pretty much tried to figure out how to get out of there. They find a place where there's a whole bunch of rocks, and they start picking at the rocks. And then there's a small little hole. I don't think no bigger than about this big, where these kids can, escape from and get out in the middle of these rocks. And, I started to think right away, how is Derek going to get in there? Because he cannot fit in there. And I thought that's how he was going to get trapped in there, and they were going to kill Derek. You don't see Derek going through the hole. We just see him with the kids on the other side, already safe and sound. And that just kind of made my head scratch. I don't know if they were not trying to fat shame him during shooting or whatnot. But it is a logistics, scientific proven thing that you cannot fit in that hole. Like, you know what I mean? An object that big cannot fit in a hole that small. It doesn't make sense. They're rocks. There's no way you can squeeze through that. I thought that was pretty silly too as well. Another thing that people had their head scratching with was Max. What's the whole idea with Max where she's in a coma for 2 years? She comes back and then they graduate, which I'll get more into it with that. Like I guess you could say that she could take all these advanced classes, these weekend classes. Maybe the government helped her out. There's a lot of plot holes like that you just kind of keep your head scratching to as well. You know, they fight the Mind Flayer at the end, and they defeat it. And the other way they do it, they have 11 go inside the Mind Flayer where he comes out the ground when they're already in the pretty much the upside down world. She goes in there and that's where Vecna is. They have a 1-on-1 battle. As the outside of the Mind Flayer, it looks like a big kaiju, like a big spider, not really spider looking kaiju, but kind of ish kaiju. They have Nancy, Steve, Jonathan, they have Dustin, they have Caleb, and you know, they all fight the Mind Flayer. Then you have this scene where, you know, Nancy goes in and tries to use herself as bait to try to corner the Mind Flayer so all the kids can attack it, while 11 is attacking him from the attacking him from the inside and fighting Vecna on the inside. There's one thing about that, like all of a sudden Nancy is turned into Rambo. That's literally what it reminded me of, a female version of Rambo. She literally was over here handling machine gun like she was a special weapons veteran. Like, dude, she was out here using that machine gun like Rambo. Like, it was pretty gnarly. I'm not gonna lie. It was a little too much. It like took me out of the innocence of these kids, of who they were and what they're trying to do a little bit, to be honest. It just threw me off a little bit. They eventually corner the Mind Flayer, and you know, the kids are, you know, trying to fight him from the outside, stabbing him, trying to throw these like little grenades. It was a little cheesy, to be honest, because this thing is massive. I'm talking about, this is a kaiju versus these kids. 11 inside fighting Vecna was pretty cool. It was very quick though to me at the end. Very, very quick. At the end, 11 defeats you know, Vecna. She pretty much has him pinned down and actually stabbed through like a big spike. And guess who gets the last final word of killing Vecna? And that is Joyce. Joyce grabs a slash hammer, pretty much decapitates his head. And as she's hitting, every time she's hitting the head, they're having scenes of, you know, of each kid getting tormented, you know, by the Mind Flayer. And I thought it was a really good touch. It was pretty cool that, you know, Joyce was the one that, you know, actually get defeat, you know, Vecna. Everyone was there watching. The kids that were kidnapped were watching. I thought it was really good touch, too, as well. But let's get back to Callie and 11. Callie and 11, they pretty much have this kind of escape thing going on with Hopper. Pretty much Hopper leaves Callie a little bit behind to save 11, you know, and then he goes back to save her. Once he grabs her, saves her, she ends up getting shot by the government. Hopper goes pretty much John Wick style, kills everybody, and they all end up pretty much at the end together. There's a pretty cool scene with Vecna. The Mind Flayer plays mind tricks on Hopper when 11 is inside the tank. Hopper is pretty much watching 11. The Mind Flayer / Vecna plays his mind tricks on him, where he pretty much ends up shooting the tank on accident because the Mind Flayer is playing games with him. And when he does, of course, he automatically thinks that, you know, 11 is dying. He breaks the glass tank, takes her out of there. And when he gets her out of there and is going to touch her gun wounds, she doesn't have any. He pretty much tricked them, so she's not connected to the water tank. I thought that was a really good scene. You know, we ended up seeing Callie getting, you know, dying against the government. You know, we still have the Terminator later. I always forget her name. Sarah O'Connor, I'm gonna call her. You know, still after 11. You know, after they defeat Vecna, they all end up pretty much driving off, and then the government corners the entire crew, the entire kids. You know, the Stranger Things crew, Max, Hopper, Joyce, they end up getting cornered, and that is when things start to go crazy. As we know, they pretty much have to close the door behind them of the upside down world, or pretty much the bridge. The bridge is a place of void where it has to eventually get destroyed, so it is going to get destroyed. So what happens is, just to end up leaving the place, they get into, you know, the regular world, and that's when the government comes in and pretty much corners them. They're trying, well, what they're after is 11. They want 11's blood to keep producing more babies, and make more meta-humans for their disposal of the government. So with that being said, guys, next thing you know, everyone's looking for 11 because the government's pretty much, you know, grabbing everyone. And where do you see 11? 11's on the other side, where you see where the upside down / the void. And then right when you see her dying, You just see her disappear with the wind because everything's getting destroyed. And yeah, guys, that's the end of 11, as we can see as in our viewers' eyes. 18 months later, you get the graduation of the kids, which I thought it was pretty cool. You get Nancy showing up too, Jonathan, Steve, Robin, Joyce, Hopper, Mrs. Wheeler, Mr. Wheeler, everyone's there. Even Lucas's, sister is there setting something up. So they have like little, kind of confetti thing and stuff going on when they graduate. And you have Dustin pretty much having a little rebellious, speech at the end, which I thought it was pretty cool when it shows the Hellfire's Club shirt. And then that's when, the kids go down. After the graduation, this pretty girl from class, I forgot her name. It is the one that kind of denied the dance with Dustin. That did deny the dance with Dustin in the earlier episodes. She asked him if she wants to go to a party, and then he was like, "Oh my God, can you believe this? She just asked me out to a party." And Mike and everyone has a better idea. They're like, "Let's do something better. I have a better idea. Let's go do something different." And they're like, "Okay." Then you get a cool shot of the outside of Mike's house. The sprinkler. That's exactly the first shot ever, I think, that we got of Stranger Things episode 1. I believe is the very, very first shot of the sprinkler outside the house. And then you see all of them. The original Dungeon and Dragon with adding of Maxine playing D&D downstairs in the basement. They play D&D and they have this, the final battle in D&D when they're playing on the game board. And Max asks Mike, "Well, what's the real ending?" And because this ending is very boring, it's very somber, and then he starts going around like, "Hey, so the ending, for Will, pretty much saying that he's gonna end up doing what he's meant to do and who he is, and he's gonna, not hide who he is anymore, and kind of be himself." And I think that was the main thing with Will. And they show him at the end at a gay bar meeting another guy, and Dustin, he is out in you can tell like the college library studying, probably doing some genius stuff. All right, now let's get into Will's theory. He pretty much starts talking about how, there's a possibility in theory where, this is all theory, guys. So take it with a grain of salt how you want to feel about this. Where, 11 lives. So he pretty much goes to this thing where, maybe the illusion of Callie, of her dying, was an illusion. And they had pretty much all set it up where, 11 was going to fake that she was going to die and somehow escape right when the government got there. She escaped and she pretty much made the illusion that she was dead. So that way the government can never hunt her, because at the end of the day, we all saw her die. We saw her die. The government saw her die. But her sister Callie does illusions. That is her master plan. Maybe she faked her death too as well. And it's pretty much ended up in this place where there is a couple waterfalls. There's not 3 like they mentioned, unless I got this, got it wrong. But I remember Mike telling 11 that he wants to go to a place where there's 3 waterfalls, but the place that they show on camera has 2 waterfalls, and that's probably where 11's at. That's what he makes it out to seem. But it's all theory, guys, because at the end of the day, I do believe that. I think they want to leave the whole thing vague, where it's kind of up to you how you want to look at it. I do believe that she's dead, and I do believe that she sacrificed herself. But if she isn't, we kind of don't never find out. That's kind of behind the scenes with the audience. Behind the scenes and out of the audience, reach or answered. But I do believe that she is dead. I do believe that is maybe a comfort story for them to have. That's why they're all crying, and just a theory. This is best case scenario for everyone. Their overarch story, what Mike's explaining, playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I do believe that she is dead. And then we'll get a little bit to other things later. But then they all put their books away, Dungeons and Dragons books, and with their names on it. And guess who comes downstairs? We have all new kids. It's pretty much we have I think we have all new kids. We have Holly, we have Derek, and I think there's 2 other kids that are starting to play Dungeons and Dragons at the exact same table where Mike and his friends used to play. And right when he's going upstairs, he looks down with the nice, comforting, happy place where he almost feel like it's passing on tradition. And I thought those were great touch. I think those are the things that it nailed with the landing when it comes to callbacks, like those are good things that I like to call book endings, where they set it up from the beginning, where the kids are all playing D&D. Now we have a brand new cast playing D&D. They're still part of the story, and I thought that was pretty good. I really like those callbacks that directors and writers do. That was beautifully done. I do think there's a couple things though that I have issues with. The government, are they in trouble for any of this? I know this is just Hawkins, but I mean, I think this would have got the word out. With all the things going on, the government just kind of goes on with their day. And also, too, everyone's talking about this final episode of the Conformity Gate that's supposed to release today. There's a whole bunch of theories going online. I pulled up a whole bunch of theories that I've been seeing that they got Mike a long time ago. I don't believe that. It's just it's almost unnecessary. You know what I mean? Because it's almost you're leaving this proper send off. You might leave loose ends just to make people think on purpose. But I think people are just trying to connect dots to connect dots. Things that make sense, you're gonna make them make sense to you. I'm not dive deep into it to where I'm like, all right, this has a plot hole, this doesn't have a plot hole. But do I believe in coincidence? Yes and no. I mean, it sounds kind of like a dumb an answer or a very vague answer, but sometimes there's coincidence that people can just attach things to, especially like thinking of old IPs like Avengers and DC, where people try to attach things together, and they do make sense on paper. They do make sense, and there's no plot holes to it, but that's not what it was intended to do. And I don't think there's gonna be another episode of the Conformity Gate. They're talking about Will got because him and Nancy just had the same haircut as Henry. I do think it was just a style back in the day, to be honest. At the end of the season, they had the exact same style as Henry. What's another thing that people are talking about? Oh yeah, when they all graduate, they're all wearing orange instead of green, because green is supposed to be the color of the school. I'm not too sure, guys, because also there's a lot of things that directors do where there is a lot of mistakes. I think this can be one, and they're all saying that when they're sitting down, they'll seem in the exact same position, as Henry has these kids sitting down looking at him. I don't know. I think that's a far stretch too as well. There's a lot of things though. I do believe that people were just wanting because they weren't very satisfied with the ending too as well. I think the Netflix has already said on today, January 7th, there's going to be a documentary in how, behind the scenes of Stranger Things and how it came about to be. I'm going to watch that later because I think it's going to be pretty cool. But I think that is all that is it. But one thing that does make my head scratch is that if all these theories are going around, I mean, someone should debunk it, like in the cast, or the director should be like, guys, don't get your hopes up. Like, this is it and over. James Gunn does that a lot, where people are speculating, especially if it was something like this, he would right away go on social media and say, no, this is not true. And then also just cost of money. I mean, unless they want to do something where they release it in a couple years, it might be cost of money too as well. God forbid Netflix get bought out by someone else. I know Netflix is buying Warner Brothers, but it gets bought out by another company. How these companies get passed around left and right. So we don't know, guys. But I do think overall the finale was pretty good. Was it a home run? I would say no. The writing got a little sloppy. I do like how the theories of everyone that kind of left it open, and how he would see all his friends kind of flourishing in life, and the idea of leaving open of 11 still being alive. I thought it was pretty cool. Pretty similar to Inception, where, he goes at the end. At the end of the dream, when he's finished with the mission, he ends up with his daughter, but then he grabs that totem pole where he spins it, and if the totem pole falls, that means that he is not in a dream. If it keeps spinning, that means he is in a dream. And the camera cuts when he starts spinning the totem pole. So we don't know, and they can leave it vague. But the directors did say that they told Millie Bobby Brown her actual fate, and they did not want to tell. They didn't want her to tell anyone, even Noah Snaps, because he's a Tom Holland of Stranger Things, where he spills a lot of the beans, which is very interesting, because why would he even tell her only if you guys are not going to do anything after with the finale? I thought it was interesting. I still don't think they're going to do anything. I can bet a lot of money I doubt they're going to do anything else. I know they're doing a spin-off and an animated series that takes place between season 2 and 3. So guys, that's my final thoughts of Stranger Things, the season finale. Let me know what you guys think about the season finale. If you guys liked it, you guys did not like it, write your comments down below. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button, and I hope everyone takes care, has a good one. I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.